Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game a lot of you have requested. Okay, you didn't exactly request this one, you requested a Wang Hao game since he announced his retirement from professional chess after the candidates tournament finished. If you haven't seen that, I will put a short link in the description below. It's a link to the chess-based article and there's a link to the video where he announces it for the first time. So while that is very sad news, you guys have requested a very nice game, and some of you have requested his game from 2013 from Norway Chess, where he defeated Magnus Carlsen. But I thought that was a pretty boring game. Not a boring game, but it's pretty long and maybe not all that eventful. And I know you guys enjoy well, much nicer games such as this one, so I chose this one. It's against Hikaru Nakamura. It's from the Beal Chess Festival 2012, well, this tournament went very well for Hao, as you'll see after we check out this game. So without further ado, let's check it out and see why I've chosen this game. So Hao with the white pieces opens with e4. We have c5 by Hikaru going for the Sicilian defense, knight to f3, d6, and d4, striking in the center. We have captures on d4, knight captures, and knight to f6, knight to c3, and a6. The knight of defense is on the board. We have bishop to g5, and now going for e6. We have f4, grabbing more space in the center. Could be a little bit dangerous because if you're castling kingside, you might be exposing your king to some unnecessary threats, but this has all been played many times, so it's all good. So here we have b5 by Hikaru going for the Polugaevsky variation, and now e5. Hao strikes in the center right away. We have d captures, f captures, and now queen to c7, seemingly giving up a knight, but not really, because queen to e5 check will win back, sorry, not a wrong arrow, will win back the piece. But still, e captures on f6 by Hao. We have queen to e5 with check, bishop to e2, and now bishop, queen captures on g5. We have castles now, and here comes rook to a7. And rook to a7 is an extremely strong move. Just to give you an example, a lot can go wrong here for black. For example, if you just continue with something like, let's say, g captures on f6, which seems like something you want to do because that's a very dangerous pawn, you run into something like knight to e4, now attacking the queen and this pawn, offering this knight because queen to e3 check eliminates the knight, but black really has nothing better. So check. King moves, now we're going to pick up the knight, and now bishop to f3 attacks, for example, the queen and the rook. When you move the queen, we're just going to gobble up this rook, and we're going to have a much better position. So instead here, rook to a7 just, gets rid of the rook from this nasty diagonal, and the rook will be a very nice defender across the entire 7th rank. So here, queen, rook to a7 with queen to d3. How it develops now, the queen, rook to d7, getting the rook to help out with the center of the board, and now knight to e4, attacking Hikaru's queen with queen to e5, now with a double attack on the knight here, and knight to f3 now, offering a queen trade. So rook captures, knight captures queen. And now usually people play queen captures on b2 here, but Hikaru went back, queen to c7. Now Hao's queen is still under attack, so queen to e3, and now comes bishop to b7. So just nicely continuing development. We have knight f to g5. Now this is a very nice move. It's just bringing more pieces into the attack, and good things will happen. Hikaru immediately chases it away. We have h6, and now queen to h3, just pinning that h pawn. If you go for something like captures and captures, it could be played maybe in a blitz game, but in a serious game maybe not so much. Although it would not be easy for black to parry all the threats here. So okay, after h6 we have queen to h3. Now you cannot capture the knight because the rook hangs, and now there is one game where queen to e5 was played, but here we have g6, and it is only now as of move 18 that we have a completely new game, but also as it was played in 2012, this position has never been reached again. So here, bishop to d3, The bishop is now, well, much better here, also adding another defender to the knight, and in the future there might be some ideas like knight captures on e6, bishop captures on g6, and so on. So here, knight to c6, Hikaru needs to continue development, and now king to h1. Now, you either sacrifice here on f7, and then you just continue queen captures on e6, or you prepare it a little bit. Hao decided to prepare a little bit with king to h1. Like I said, could be dangerous, opening up this diagonal. So he brings the king back, and now knight to e5 by Hikaru. We have rook a to e1, and now you need to develop the last piece, that is the bishop on f8, so bishop to b4. Now attacking this rook, and you can't really play c3 or something like this because rook captures on d3, attacks the queen, and black just wins this. So instead, after bishop to b4, we have rook to e3, a very nice rook lift, and now bishop to d5. Hikaru adds another defender to the e6 pawn, and now Hao needs to do something. He plays bishop back to e2. He doesn't want to allow any unnecessary trades here. And here, Hikaru can grab a pawn. So bishop to e2 is a pretty sneaky move, but it's definitely best to capture this pawn. If Hikaru captures the pawn, then you don't really have any good discoveries. Yes, the knight on e5 is not defended, but if you play something like knight to c3, we can just eliminate it. Still, we're defending the knight. After b captures, then we just go back. Knight to c4, attack this rook, and if captures and captures, for example, rook f to e1, yes, white does have a nice position, but he doesn't really have compensation, so black should be better here. So instead, after bishop to e2, we have knight to c4 right away. Hikaru not interested in grabbing the pawn, and now rook to d3. We have queen to e5, now with a double attack on this e4 pawn, and now a3, chasing away the bishop on b4, and now comes bishop to a5. With bishop to g4, Hao just brings all of his pieces into the attack. He really doesn't care about anything, especially not the b2 pawn. First he offered Hikaru the c2 pawn, now he's offering the b2 pawn, but Hikaru doesn't grab that one either. But knight captures on b2 is the best move for black. Because it attacks the knight, and if you play something like rook to e3, yes, it looks very dangerous. There could be a lot of very nasty discoveries, but not really. We just go back, knight to c4, and there are no good discoveries. You cannot move the knight. Even knight to c5 is impossible, because then the queen just eliminates this knight, and you don't want to give up two knights to win this rook on d7. So here you don't really have a good move. The rook is under attack, rook e2, just king d8. Now you don't have any checks, any tricks, and here black is just better. So this is the second time Hikaru does not grab a pawn where he should have, and now comes knight to d6 by Hikaru. And his position is excellent, or maybe even better, if there wasn't for this one particular move that Hao can play. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find this, the only good move for Hao, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this incredible move. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's queen captures on h6. I'm only kidding. No, it's not. It's rook captures on d5. And now the problem is you cannot capture with the pawn because bishop captures on d7 with check, and black's entire position just falls apart. For example, king f8, knight captures on d6, and there's not much to be played here. Queen captures. Still, this is not an option because the rook hangs. We can even play bishop to e6 here, go after the f7 pawn, give up the pawn here, but now comes knight captures with check, king f7, we go back, knight g5 check. Again, you cannot capture because the rook hangs. So after king to f8, let's say f7, and black's position is just unplayable. This rook is stuck here, and that's just it. Very quickly, we're gonna win this game. So instead of doing that, after rook captures on d5, Hikaru of course played queen captures on d5, but now bishop captures on e6. This was the point. We had to eliminate the defender of the e6 square. That was the bishop on d5. So here, bishop captures, we have pawn captures, and now f7 with check. And now you could capture this, and there are two very interesting moves, or rather three very interesting moves here. Rook captures on f7 is pretty much a forced draw if you play out the variation perfectly, and I'm going to show it because it's very nice. Knight captures on d6 with check, also with a nice fork here. Queen captures, knight captures on f7, and now it seems like white completely destroyed black. However, there is castles here. Probably something that Hikaru missed, because now the queen cannot be captured. You will get checkmated. So here, best would be something like queen to f3. And now the black queen is still under attack, queen e7, and now we go for this. Knight captures on h6, king g7, now we eliminate here, check, grabs, and now, for example, knight goes back, and we play this endgame where it's a knight against the bishop, where Hao would be up a pawn. However, like I said, that's very, very hard to spot. Another idea is king to e7. King to e7 also very strong, and with perfect play. For example, after this king to e7, we could play queen captures on h6, hoping for rook captures, and then we just bring another queen into the game. But there is rook d to d8. So now everything is pretty much working out for black, and we would have to go into something like f8 queen check, rook captures. We would play queen to g7 with check, king to d8, and now we're going to play captures with check, rook captures, queen captures with check, king to c7, now queen to e7 with check, going after this pawn, king to c6, and now finally queen captures on d6, grabbing the knight, of course, not the pawn. Queen captures, knight captures, king captures, and we get a very similar position, although the black king is a bit more active. So out of the two, definitely king to e7 best, and rook captures on f7 second best. But Hikaru plays the third best move, and that is king to d8. And here, the difference is that Hao is able to continue playing this game with the queens on the board. And since he's up a pawn, it could be worth something. So here, knight captures on e6 with check. Hikaru wants to hide his king on the queen side. King to c8, and now f8 with queen. We have rook captures with check, bishop to d8, now blocking as the king left the d8 square, and now knight captures on d6. And here, again, Hikaru probably missed the tactic. I don't know why. He didn't play queen captures on d6. The problem is you don't have knight captures, and now, okay, the rook cannot capture because of the pin, but you can just checkmate white. Just check, and after the rook blocks, this will be checkmate. But Hikaru first played king to b8. He says, it's not a problem, I'm going to win back my material. And now comes rook to f1. Problem is, if you go for something like rook captures on d8, then rook captures, knight captures, and then queen to d1 is mate in 1. So here, Hao has to go back. He plays rook to f1. Now there are no back rank mates, and only now Hikaru wins back his piece. But now there's a problem. Knight captures on d8. And again, maybe even this is not a problem, but it does appear to be. Hikaru doesn't grab the knight back right away. First, he plays queen to c4. The knight can't really leave the d8 square, because all of these squares are nicely covered by the queen. And if you go for something like knight here, then of course queen captures on f1 will be checkmate. You have to watch out for everything. So instead, after this queen to c4, we have rook to g1 by Hao. He's still up a pawn, so he doesn't really care about giving back the material. Rook captures, and now queen to g3 with check. This also eliminates the g6 pawn. So here we have king to b7 and queen captures on g6. We have which also defends the c2 pawn. So here Hikaru goes rook to d2, attacks the pawn, and now queen captures on h6. Rook captures on c2, and now queen to g7 with check. So now the situation is Hao is up 2 pawns, and if he can start pushing those pawns, then of course it's going to be an easy win. King b6, we have b4 defending this pawn by pushing it. We have queen to d3, now threatening to pick up this pawn, and now rook to e1. And now the pawn cannot be captured because the black king is in a mating net. For example, queen captures, now we're going to go queen d4 check, king to c6, now rook e6 check, king b7, queen to d5 with check, and slowly but surely the black king will die. So king b8, queen to d6 with check, king to b7, rook to e7 check, and that's it. King a8, we're just going to play queen d8 check, rook has to block, and this will be checkmate. So instead, after rook to e1, we have queen to e3. Hikaru now offers his queen, so he can deliver rook to c1, and then rook captures on e1 checkmate. But of course, Hao not interested in that, just plays queen f6 check, king to c7, and now queen to f1. So not falling for any tricks here. We have rook to f2. Again, Hikaru goes for some tricks. Then, of course, if you capture the queen, you're again getting checkmated. But now Hao just plays queen to g1. Now pins the rook here. We have queen to f4 and now h3. And here Hikaru played queen to g3, but there really isn't all that much you can do here. Hao just played queen to h2, and it was in this position that Hikaru Nakamura resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. The queen trade cannot be avoided, and after this is traded, there's really no playing this. You're up 2 pawns. If you attack the pawn, just rook e3, defends the pawn, and then you're going to start pushing your passed pawn. So, so I don't forget, these are the standings of this very nice tournament. Not that. Let me just load that. These are the standings from the previous video. Yeah, that's the one. So these are the standings of this tournament. So as you can see, Wang Hao won the tournament by winning first place with 19 points, 6 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. So he lost a lot, but he also won a lot of games. Then Magnus Carlsen in 2nd place, Anish Giri in 3rd place, Hikaru in 4th place, Etienne Bacro in 7th, Victor Bolognan in 4th, and Alexander Morozevich in last place. So really a great tournament for Wang Hao, and even though he lost both of his games to Magnus Carlsen in this tournament, he was still able to outperform him by winning a lot more other games. Much like, for example, Mikhail Tal won the 1959 Candidates tournament. He lost some games, but he also won much more games than, for example, Paul Keres. So yeah, really an exciting game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, Hao retires from professional chess, or rather he announced his retirement from professional chess. We'll see what he says, that he will still be involved. Like I said, do check out his video. I will put a link to it in the description below if you guys are interested in learning more about that. But yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Tsanko Tsolov, Kevin Hawkins, Austin Del Rio, Charles Hare, and David Kimura for contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing the coverage of the Morphy saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.